on where you are at. As I am recording this, it is June 19th, so just the day before we head into the summer solstice here in the United States, and we're in the northern hemisphere. And I'm very excited. I wanted to come and talk to you about what's coming up with the summer solstice. What does that mean? How does it move our energies around? Also, Jupiter will be taking its retrograde as we have the sun move tomorrow as well. Jupiter will be forming an absolutely gorgeous trine tomorrow. So it's just the most brilliant energy to be coming into a new season with. So I wanted to get in here. Plus, I feel like I haven't really had a chance to chat with you guys in a while. Just one-on-one live. Things have been so busy, and truly I hope that you're having a phenomenal time with the YouTube Academy. Please let me know in the comment section down below. How are you doing with the YouTube Academy? Are you studying? Are you gaining information? Which teachers have been your favorite so far? And there's so much more coming. So really, really excited to have this conversation with you guys here today. So let's get into it. So first thing, tomorrow, we're going to be having the sun move into the energy of Cancer. What a divine shift of energy. Whenever the sun moves, we have the opportunity to breathe in and to channel what that season is about. We start to take on and be motivated by the characteristics of the sun moving into that particular sign. And we know that each movement is going to give us about 4 weeks worth of energy. So as the sun moves tomorrow into the energy of Cancer, we're going to be a bit more focused inward on Cancerian things. Truly, what is my internal life looking like right now, but also my domestic life? What's happening for me at home? What's going on with my family? What's happening with my relationships with women? What's my relationship with this feminine energy? And that is not boy girl, it's feminine energy. What are those things looking like? My roots, my grounding, where I come from. There could be things that we're answering over the next 4 weeks that really do concern us from the past. What's been happening from the past that we're ready to take some action. We're ready to look at it. We're ready to see it. But we're ready to make home, essentially, is the energy that does come under. Now, I think that it's really so divine that Cancer is the energy that kind of brings us back to that root level home zone. But the thing I like to point out for us to always remember is that Cancer, because it is starting a season for us, is still a cardinal energy. So it is still an energy that we've got in our favor until July 22nd. So this is a beginning energy. Initiate, move things forward, secure things, is essentially what the sun will have us motivated to do as we travel through the Cancerian energy in that Cancerian season. Now, what's going to happen is that, we live in cycles. So we have a cycle within, that one here is going to make me crazy. We have cycles within a cycle within a cycle. And so as we're coming into Sunday as well, and we get to the evening, actually, we're going to also be moving into the summer solstice. It's a time of transition. We are moving in the northern hemisphere between spring and summer. And no matter how beautiful or how crazy it's been where you're at, this is still cardinal energy. So it announces, this sun movement into Cancer makes this announcement, bears this flag for us that it is time to change. It is time to shift forward. It is a time to initiate projects. It's time to all of these things we've been on hold with as the Saturn Uranus square was happening, as we are transiting through Mercury retrograde. All of these things that we've needed to just be on pause a little bit about, and we've needed to allow the mutable energies, right, to blend them and to adapt them. Now we're giving that flag bearing permission to really launch those projects forward, to launch ourselves forward, and to just have this movement that is between I'm warming up to yes honey I'm hot. Okay, right? So we get that boost of energy. Now, significance in the sky. One of the things to keep in mind, and see how this sits in your energy. I really want to have this somatic experience with everything we talk about this year. What does it mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like to you, right? I can tell you what's happening, but what does it feel like? So as we're doing summer solstice, we're going to have the shortest night of the year, but we're going to have the longest day of the year. And what does that feel like when you sit with that information and you know that in the astronomy and in the movement of what's happening up there, we're having the shortest night, okay? Sleep quick, right? It's cardinal energy, sleep quickly, but it's also the longest day. How much can you really pour yourself into the day that is given? I really love the fullness of seeing that these motions mean something in the sky, as well as in the transition of the seasons that they bring us into, right? Now, at the same time, we've got the sun moving, we've got a season change. We're also going to have Jupiter stepping into its retrograde. Now, a couple things to note. First of all, because this all coincides together, it's all happening together. It's a big energy cluster for us to take advantage of and to pay attention to. So tomorrow, in addition to being Father's Day in the United States, which add a little something else in there, right? It is an energetically sound day where there's lots buzzing. It's quite vital, even though we've got a retrograde handling us in the sky, as well, okay? So now, as we're doing this Jupiter retrograde, one of the things I want to point out is that as Jupiter retrogrades, first of all, Jupiter is benefic. It's a benefic, very big energy. It's very expansive. It's always essentially teaching to bring us wisdom through experience, but that experience and that wisdom can come through fortune, it can come through blessings, it can come through ease of situations, help you, make things bigger in the direction that you're trying to point them in. Now, the challenge of Jupiter is that it can also just make things big. Things just expand very, 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 very quickly. So as we're taking this Jupiter retrograde, I want you to first start and consider that as Jupiter is taking this retrograde, it's going to be at 2 degrees of Pisces, which means that over this last, where are we? We're going to be in June. Over this last month, we've experienced Jupiter piquing our interest into the Piscean portion of our chart, but just 2 little degrees. So he's given an entrance and a preview of what is to come when he comes and he's ready to expand that Piscean area of our chart. So yes, we will have an influence of Jupiter's retrograde in Pisces, of things that we've already seen. But I don't think that this is the most, of course there's a plane right now. I don't think that that is the most prominent energy for us to focus on. Because really, what's going to happen is after Jupiter gets to that 2 degrees of Pisces, stations retrograde, it's going to back all the way up to 22 degrees of Aquarius. Now, the Aquarian energy, we have seen this, we have looked at this, we have felt it, we have learned some of the lessons here. Jupiter has brought in ideas, philosophies, beliefs, levels of expansion for us as he traveled through the Aquarian areas of our chart. So by the time we get all the way backed up to October 18th, we will see that Jupiter is going to take its next station at 22 degrees of Aquarius. So a retrograde sends us in. Thank you. I'm so glad you hear me beyond the airplane. It sends us in. The retrograde says, go back, go inside. It's going to bring this internal, introspective kind of vibe to the table. And we're going back over the philosophies, the ideas, the beliefs, the expansions that we've taken out in this Aquarian energies. What have we developed at? What have we experimented with? Where have we said yes to something? Where have we said yes to too many things, maybe in that Aquarian zone? Now, as Jupiter goes to its retrograde, we're going to reflect. I am reflecting on coming on my deck to do this today. It has been literally quiet all day long. It's just like when you start talking with somebody and then everybody calls you on the phone. It's just like that today. So I pray you guys can hear me right now. So we're going to look at these areas that Jupiter was trying to bring success into our life, and maybe we've said yes to too many things. Remember, I told you Jupiter has this expansive energy. It'll just say yes, 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 right? So where over this handful of months, that's right, it's applause, where over this handful of months really backing all the way up until December of 2020. Where has that Aquarian area of your chart been trying to have success, but it's been like, yes, 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 or there have been these very fortunate, because it can look really good, and sometimes the blessings can be just as heavy as the challenges, right? So where have you seen an increase in abundance in a particular Aquarian area of your chart? Now, some of the things that I think have happened as well is that, or will happen as well, is that as Jupiter is retrograde here and we're sent in to look at these things, we will look at where we have an over excess of something in our lives. Where have you said too much? Yes, but also, are you eating too much? Are you spending too much? Are you giving too much of yourself and not making space to actually receive? This is going to tap into a lot of philosophical, spiritual, idealistic beliefs that we've had and we've carried with us for so long that they've maybe even functioned as habits. You know, somebody does this and I do that. We're almost predictable in the way that these habits have been ingrained in us. So there's a lot of fortune that I think that is available to come from the changes over this next cycle. Now, I do want to explain the astrology quite quickly. When Jupiter retrogrades, it retrogrades every 13 months, and it'll stay retrograde for about 4 months, okay? So that's why we know that we're going to see from June all the way moving down into October, this retrograde cycle. So one of the things I do want to ask you is to get pen to paper. Get pen to paper. It's not that you have to do a whole journal or anything, but maybe write down some key words or some key ideas or some places that you've seen increase in the Aquarian areas of your chart so that we can go back in and make sure we're not acting like greedy little rabbits in that area of our chart, that we're not moving obsessively or addictively or just dead-eyed, dead soul habitually in those areas. Instead, as Jupiter's retrograde now, you have the opportunity to like give yourself a mini intervention if it is needed. And remember, the blessings can be just as heavy as the challenges. Is there too much of something in your life, in your world? The retrograde will help you recognize the issue. You can create a little intervention, maybe even, you know, my goodness, do you have Jupiter retrograding through your 4th house, through your 5th house, through your 11th house, through your 12th house? Are you having to go do physical interventions on other people in your life? You know, has somebody been hoarding? Has somebody been drinking too much, eating too much, workaholism? Has that been something that's on the table? Whatever it is, the retrograde is the opportunity to recognize it, admit that there is a challenge or there needs to be an adjustment of this energy, and then by the time we arrive at the doorstep of October, we have sorted out some things. We've seen them. We have some new formed beliefs, some ideas, some philosophies, some faith. But we realize that the changes we made are relevant to actually allowing Jupiter to create that success and this fortune in this area. Now, remember I said that Jupiter's going retrograde at 2 degrees of Pisces, and I don't feel like that's the prominent influence at this particular time. Whatever you see in this first 2 weeks of this Jupiter retrograde, I do think it will come back to your table as Jupiter enters into Pisces at the end of the year when we get into December. So keep an eye, you know, keep a note over here, but it may be really back burner stuff depending on how many Piscean planets, how many Piscean planets, angles, or influences that you also have. If you do happen to have Pisces at, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 degrees on an angle, I think that this particular retrograde is really going to call you to task to say, hey, wait a minute, before we continue here, we need to adjust. And the other thing that I think can happen for all of us too is that it's almost like Jupiter's created this expansion. It's given you this moment. It's given you this success. It's given or brought in this opportunity, right? And then the retrograde puts you under a little pressure to say, yeah, can you really handle it? Like, can you handle this level of expansion? And if you realize you can't, and I love to use business as an example, you know, if you've got a business or you've had business come into your life and you realize, oh my gosh, it's happening, this is great, I'm expanding out. Do you have the processes? Do you have the staff? Do you have the capabilities to keep up with the good business and the abundance of business that's coming your way? So sometimes you might be able to feel the testing as well. Now, I want to address two other things before I stop chatting at you. One, if you have Jupiter retrograde in your natal chart, and it's not uncommon to have Jupiter retrograde in the natal chart, and if you have Jupiter retrograde specifically in Pisces, well, let me think about that. Let's just stick to the Jupiter retrograde. If you've got Jupiter retrograde in your chart, this may feel like a homecoming to you. This may feel like an arrival gate has opened for you, and all of these things that you've been thinking about and maybe haven't been able to really see the doors opening for yourself. This could be the time where you're actually seeing those doors open. You're seeing the opportunities become available. You put that resume in 100 years ago and now it's being responded to. You put that, you sent off for your passport months ago and there's literally been no word, and things start to show up at your doorstep. So if you do have Jupiter retrograde in your chart natally, or maybe you're in progressed Jupiter retrograde, or you're on a solar, you're coming into a solar return Jupiter retrograde, these may feel like a little bit of a doorway or an entryway is actually opened up for you. So I want you to just kind of know that and keep that in mind. It can be a little bit of a drawing out instead of a pushing in for you guys like it is for us. Now, the other thing I wanted to address is this gorgeous trine that is going to be happening as Jupiter takes its retrograde. Now, the trine that's happening is between Jupiter, the Sun, and the Moon. And this grand trine is just, I mean, it's just everything. It's just everything. I mean, this is one of the most fortunate aspects that you can get because it creates this pocket of opportunity. It creates this ease. It's this pattern in the sky that is also so phenomenally useful if you remember to go to it. But I think that it speaks so well to taking this retrograde under the energy of luck, under the energy of surety to grow and to have success. If you will simply go very purposely back over what we've been seeing in these Aquarian energies. I just could not be more tickled in the midst of all of this eclipse energy that we've had, the Saturn-Uranus square, this tension we've been feeling in the sky, the uncertainty of movement. There is good. There is motion. There are pockets of opportunity that are being celestially dropped down for us to just step into, but it does require our participation. And my God, the planet of fortune connecting with both the sun and the moon, that literally means anything is possible. So I look forward to hearing from you guys, seeing what kind of connections. Where is Jupiter retrograding for you? What area of your chart? For me, Piscean energy, it's still going to be in my sixth. It will still be in my fifth house, moving into my sixth house, but then coming back into my fifth house with that Aquarian energy. So it's busy. I've kind of got a 5, 6, 7 touch in that will be stimulated. So I would love to hear what it looks like for you guys. I know for me, my gosh, it's been an absolute Jupiterian expansion and explosion over here. I think I'm speaking everywhere, writing everywhere, all of these things. And very quickly, I realized I was going to have to create a little bit of containment or I would be spread far too thin to actually be in a quality manner here with you guys that I want it to be. So I'd love to hear, you know, I wanted to say this too. Don't be afraid, whether it's here or in your own life or when you take pen to paper, to be vulnerable enough to say, I've taken on too much. I didn't do this very well, or oh my gosh, I'm really doing very, very well at this. How do I keep this going? I just really want to make sure that this year I speak honor into your life and encourage that out of you, inspire that out of you. Honor who you are and where you are. Nobody's doing it all right. Nobody's doing it all wrong. The point is that we are all progressing, and to do it in a material plane is maybe not all there is. Maybe there's more soul and spiritual growth that's happening, and that allows us to show up in the material plane. So I really look forward to seeing what this is gonna, where this is gonna spin, and what this is gonna rock for you. Okay, all right. I can't go before I say it. Before I leave, if you do happen to have your nodes in Pisces or Aquarius, especially at these degrees that are contained in here. So between 2 degrees of Pisces, moving all the way backwards to 0, and then all the way back to 22 degrees of Aquarius. And I really think moving all the way back to like, yeah, I want to say 15 degrees of Aquarius, because nodes get a pretty wide orb. Anyway, if you do have Jupiter retrograding on top of, let's say, the North Node, okay, it's still retrograde. So sitting on top of your node, North Node, is still going to ask you if you're on track. It's going to ask you to review the destiny plan, right? So maybe do some looking, do some learning, do some exploring what that North Node in Pisces is really about. Are you sharing a collective message? Are you sharing your creativity? Are you stepping up and being very present and very conscious in your reality of what's going on? Are you owning the non-victim status? Are you helping and being of service to others, right? Really look into that, because the North Node is a little bit more challenging to get to. So as we get in activation to the North Node, it does take a little bit more effort for us. Now, if you've got Jupiter activating that South Node and it's retrograde and the nodes are already naturally retrograde, let go. What needs to be surrendered? What do you need to just let go? It's not working. You've tried it 100 times and you're still getting the same result. If it's thinking, if it's action, if it's habitual behavior, let it go. Let that South Node take it and detach you from it. And it's easier said than done, for sure, but this is the journey, right? We journey together here and in community so that we can make peace with the work that we're doing and do it really, really efficiently. Well, that's spoken like a very true Taurus. Some of you may have other reasons, but I'm trying to help us honor where we're at and journey as positively and as efficiently as we can. So I love you guys so much. If you're watching back and you weren't able to be here for the live replay, I just want to send you all a lot of love out there. I want to welcome you to the summer solstice as we get ready to make our way into a whole new bunch of energy and transformations that are ready, waiting, and available to us to be the little brave toasters we can be as we get out there, okay? All right, my beautiful friends, I love you. Your July horoscopes will be up quite shortly. And also, I've got 3 different moon videos coming for you as well. So I will see you all very soon. Bye, everyone.